Can the Eagles save their season this weekend? Can the Eagles save Eagles Nation's confidence in them this weekend? I think they're the two big questions to ask today on Trending in the AM. We're taking your thoughts and opinions, trying to spin it back to the positive side of the equation. We're live with your thoughts and opinions in 30 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. Make sure you drop your comments, your thoughts, your concerns, because this is the last day of the show this week. His final chance to get our predictions and thoughts on this, unfortunately, very critical game against the New York Giants. Must win. Never thought we'd be at this point of must win against the Giants, but that is what it is. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, here every single morning on Trending in the AM. You can find me everywhere on social media at Beard and Knowledge. I greatly appreciate that. And of course, as always, jam-packed show here. We're trying to keep it positive, but with a kind of semi-positive, semi-negative question of the day. Can the Eagles save their season and also Eagles Nation's confidence? And I guess the question is, what can they do to save their season and save your confidence in them? We got the great Brian Cameron, Flipping the Birds, Philadelphia Sports Network. He is going to be joining us in about 15 minutes, give his insight, opinions, and whatnot on this game. Duck already chiming in 17-13 Eagles. Man, I don't think a 17-13 victory over the Giants is going to answer the way I hope this question is phrased today, Duck. If the Eagles win 17-13, there are going to be just as many questions, just as much frustration, just as much everything on this Philadelphia Eagles team. We're not going to feel good about this team. But on the flip side, if the Eagles go out and win, say 31-13, will it make you feel good? And that's kind of the question of the day. Is there something the Eagles could do on Monday, Christmas Day, against the Giants at home? Is there something they can do to make you feel better about the team, about the playoff run that, whether we love this team or not, they're in the playoffs already. So is there something that they can do on Monday night, Monday afternoon? We're all done opening presents. We're all done stuffed to the gills from the Christmas feast. We sit down, we turn on the game, and we wonder, what can they do to close Christmas out well, but also give us that confidence back? What's up, Philly Sports? For me, it's a no. The game doesn't change how I feel about them. So there is no changing. Because if they do go out and just hypothetically win 31-10 or something like that, it was just the Giants, right? And I'm not questioning your opinion. I'm asking because I want to know. A 70 burger would help. Now, that's asking a lot, although there's been a couple 60, 70-point games in the NFL this year. But, is that literally, you go up and hang 70 on the New York Giants, will you feel better about yourself? Will you feel better about the Eagles going forward? That's the question. Yes, that tells you my confidence level right now about the Eagles. That's on the 17-13 score prediction. Look, I'm not mad if you're not confident in the Eagles. I'm not surprised. I'm not confident in the Eagles. What's up, Mitchy Poo? Good morning. How you doing, my man? So the question is there anybody out there that feels the Eagles could do something I mean, and it's more than just blowing out the Giants. It's what can the defense do anything to earn confidence? I mean, it's Tommy DeVito, but they have won 3 out of their last 4 games. It's, you know, when you hit quicksand and you struggle and you struggle and you fight and it makes you sink faster. The domino effect. You knock over one domino and they all just keep falling. Does it matter what the Eagles do? And are they even going to like I almost feel like any win can build some confidence back for me and for the players because it just shows that they've gotten out of the quicksand to an extent, if that analogy makes sense. Precise offensive play call and give up less than 17, and maybe I'm on my way to feeling a little bit better. Philly sports. So the question is then get a win, look good, no matter how, then build it to another win next week against Arizona. Maybe the only way that they could save their season and save the confidence of Eagles Nation is by going on another run, even though it's 2 against the Giants and the Cardinals. Maybe just this weekend can't save anything, but at the very least, they can start building itch, building towards something again. Mitchie Poo, there's no Eagles fan that isn't a little bit nervous. The Giants stink. The Giants do stink. They have won 3 out of the last 4 games. Just saying. I'm going 24-10 Eagles here. I can't be out on this team with the next 3 games. Playoffs is where reputations are made. Dak Cowboys, bad reputation. That's a fair point. But just speaking this week, say the Eagles, Marshawn, go and do that 24-10. Are you going to be all in again? No questions asked. Like, does that build your confidence back with this Eagles team? I think they could take the East. Technically, they still can. Yes, absolutely. I've been stressful. It's been stressful, but we got this. Just win by any means necessary. And that's fair. I get that. I get that opinion. I understand that opinion. But my question is, if they just win, they win, like Duck earlier said, 17-13. Are you going to feel the stress come off your shoulders a little bit? Or is any win a win is good win? Because we used to talk about that earlier this season when they were barely beating the Cowboys and the Chiefs and all. An ugly win is better than a loss. Does that apply right now in this current situation with the Eagles after losing 3 games? I have to believe the players and leaders on this team will rise above and questionable play calling. Players over scheme. I hope so. I'm far from nervous in this game. We win this game easily. I hope so. And I love that you're confident. I just find it very difficult to have that same confidence. A 70 burger, even against the Giants, means that the offense is doing something in rhythm with each other. It says the players and coaching are on the same page. That's all I want to see. I don't care about how they win the game. I just want to see mistake-free football. We still have injuries on defense. There's still guys that aren't going to be playing on defense. We might give up a few points to the Giants offense. So no, whatever. I just want to see consistency. I want to see tackles made. I want to see pressure on the quarterback. I want to see the Eagles offense in rhythm. I want to see Jalen Hurts not forcing the ball anywhere. But you also got to remember the Giants. This is division rival. They've got this game circled on their calendar. The Giants are 2-1 in the division. They beat Washington twice. They get up for these games. I'm a sick individual, Phil. I'm always all in. That's kind of what being a Philly fan is all about, Marshawn, without a doubt. We as a fan base have dealt with a lot worse than a 3-game slide, game 6 and 7. Absolutely. I don't doubt you on that at all. Not at all. And hell, like I said yesterday, I had the Eagles 10-4 at this point, losing their last 2 games. I had them on a 3 out of 4 game losing streak. So we're right where I predicted this team to be in the beginning of the season. We could win 2-0 or 44-6 and things won't matter until the playoffs. I think that's fair. The only thing that's really important right now with the actual wins is building confidence. We're in the playoffs. Yeah, we still want to win the division, and there's an outside chance at the number 1 seed. So, yeah, there's still that to play for. But our real goal is just to get our confidence back as a team. And that's what they need to do this weekend. So the win is extremely important for sure. But the confidence building that this team, not just, I say, what can what can they do to, bring Eagles Nation back? But really, who cares about Eagles Nation? Because no matter what Eagles Nation does, someone will find a way to complain about it. But they need to build their own confidence back and quickly. We sacked Tommy Cutlets 6 times minimum. See, now K1, Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito, Danny DeVito's illegitimate son. Look, first off, he's actually a little bit more mobile. I was looking at some of their numbers than people realize. But how many times this year have we gone up against a bad offense and on this show said the Eagles are going to get 5, 6, 7 sacks against insert name quarterback? And how many times did they do that? I saw something from my man Brendan Deeg the other day on Twitter. So I did a little bit more of a deeper research, a deeper dive. For as much as we love Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat, they haven't been good enough this year. Josh Sweat hasn't had a sack in 8 of 14 games. He's got 6.5 sacks. Hassan Reddick's got double-digit sacks, but 5 or 6 times he's been shut out. It's because when he gets hot, he gets really hot. We need more from those two guys because they're not producing enough sack-wise, getting after the quarterback as we expect, as we need. It's kind of how Eagles fans all have copes for Jordan Davis' lack of impact. Jordan Davis has a big impact on this team, just so you know. Yeah, exactly, Marshawn. He just doesn't know. I like all the young guys in the perimeter with that speed and fresh legs. Tackling is a massive issue, but that's the payoff when you put young guys out there. Actually, I think the young guys tackle better than the vets, honestly, at this point. Davis is not having the same impact as Hamilton, but he is far from a bust. Exactly. See, the thing is, Marshawn, a lot of people, defensive tackles, nose tackles, those big girthy guys in the middle of the defense, they don't put up much on the stat sheet. Their statistics don't look, pretty. They don't have 20 sacks. They don't have 100 tackles. But the defensive tackles, the nose tackles, they do so much that doesn't show up on the box score that don't worry about what he's saying there. Reddick not used right. Well, till last week, he wasn't even dropping back into coverage anymore. So he's staying on the line. He's just not producing at all to the level we hope. We need some stunts, perhaps, in the pass rush. Move the defensive ends around. I trust Patricia at this point. I have no choice. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's a trust thing with Matt Patricia. I think it's just a Band-Aid this defense together as best you can and build some confidence. And this week with the Giants, with Tommy DeVito, I mean, who's there to stop, offensively speaking? They don't really have much of a wide receiver. They still obviously have Saquon Barkley. We're going to fire through some of these comments, but, we'll catch up to them in 1 second because joining us on the I Have No Sponsor hotline, the living legend, Brian Cameron. Good morning. Merry Christmas. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, man. Listen, I took today off of work, and the first thing that came to my head was like, I got to jump on trending in the AM because I feel like I haven't talked to Phil in God knows how long. I mean, Phil's
It
grown
has
hair.
been
I
a
haven't.
long time since
So
you've
it's
been here,
definitely been a long time.
So, well, I'm glad you took off today to come join. So the question of the day, and everybody's having different opinions in the comments on this. And the question of the day today is, because obviously last show before the game, guys, sorry in the comments, no Christmas morning show. I am not waking up on Christmas morning to talk with you guys. So this is the final preview prediction kind of show, Brian. Is there something the Eagles can do to rebuild the confidence of themselves, but also of the fan base this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say win, right? Because I think
Right.
winning cures everything. But in this regard, it's kind of like win, but win convincingly.
Yeah.
Win with a well input structure. Like the fact that you have Jalen questioning people's commitment, you have Nick Sirianni talking about he was playing for a deep defensive pass interference. Um, Everything just feels chaotic. What's going on, Duck? And I think if you're gonna win, you have to win convincingly. You have to have Jalen put together a solid game. Um, I was reading Honest NFL. They put out a tweet saying that, hey, like you got to make it easy for Jalen. I don't care who you bring in, pretty much. You got to make it easy for him and have them guide Jalen back to who he was. And it's weird because as many people don't want to do this comparison, this feels oddly like Carson Wentz when Carson Wentz was on his downfall. But the difference is Jalen has a stronger mental
Right.
stability than Carson did. But the concerning part is like, hey, as an organization, you got to see the issue and you got to respond to it the correct way this time, right? You're not replacing Jalen. You're not going to draft another guy to be the guy. You got to respond correctly. You got to get the right people in the building for Jalen and then produce from there. But for this game, I just feel like you got to win convincingly. That's the name of the game.
See, so you say, because I want to get back to that Jalen Carson thing, because there's another comparison. So I want to get back to that in a second. But aren't you like just win convincingly? But there will be people saying it. Well, it was just the Giants. You know what I mean? And some people don't realize the Giants have been playing decent football for their standards. They've won 3 of their last 4. It doesn't matter who the team is, right? It just win convincingly, whether it's an 0-16 team or a 16-0. A win is a win that matters right now.
I'm going to tell you, like I tell all my friends and family, when it comes to football is a week-to-week league. Things could change in an instant. I mean, it was just the Jets, right? And we lost. I mean, it was just the Cowboys
Right.
and we lost. It was just the
Right.
Seahawks and we still lost. Matt Hatter, he's a real troll all the time on flipping the birds.
I
So
don't know
Matt
what's
Hatter,
worse. Mad Chatter being a Bills fan or you being a Mets fan. I don't know what's worse, you know?
that's a sore subject this morning, Phil. Come on. Yamamoto signing with the damn Dodgers, a very
I
sore
know. Dude,
subject.
I wish I had 1/10 of the money that the Dodgers organization has to spend on those guys.
Bro,
But
how do you have 1.7 billion, I think, spent into those guys?
close 700 for Otani, and what they
Uh-huh.
340 or 330 for the pitcher. I don't even want to
Yeah.
try to pronounce his name.
And 325.
He's not a Philly, so I don't have to learn how to pronounce his name.
So it's 325 for Yamamoto. And then how much they give Glass now?
Oh, I forgot about that too.
Yeah,
I've
that's what
been
I'm
so
saying.
focused on the Eagles, I kind of forgetting about baseball right now. We haven't even talked Sixers on this show in like 2 months now because of how focused we are here. But back to this here. Obviously, so people are talking about Jalen in the comments. We are making it easy for Jalen. He's missing open guys. Jalen going through the same thing, and this is what I wanted to bring up, Marshawn, because you brought this up the other day, and Brian said he's kind of mirroring the path of Carson Wentz. So the question is, the career trajectory of Carson Wentz and Lamar Jackson are similar, having great success and then a drop off. The question is, will Jalen be more like Lamar and be able to bounce back, or will Jalen Hurts go the Carson Wentz route and just fall off the face of the earth? We better hope and have confidence that Jalen takes that Lamar Jackson type trajectory where he has that fall down, that slip up, but then rebuilds himself. You got to have confidence that Jalen could do it, though, right?
Yeah, I would put Jalen on the same trajectory as Lamar, where they figured out they took away the RPOs, right? He's not running around, as you see my dog in the background. Um, um, but my thing with Jalen, and going back to that last question, where it's like they're making it easy for him, they're really not, right? Like
Yeah.
when you saw Sirianni talking about, Sirianni mentioned like, hey, that was the first read. AJ Brown was the read. You're going for pass interference. If a coach tells a quarterback, "Hey, you got to throw it to this guy so we can get this," Jalen's not going to be thinking about Kenny Gainwell and the check down, which sucks. You're really taking away the arms and the legs of a quarterback because you want to control him in every aspect of this regard. And I feel like that's what it's been like this season, and we're starting to see the revelation of it. Thank you, Matt Chatter. We're starting to see the revelation of it going forward, where it's kind of like they're trying to do too much to Jalen right now. Just let Jalen be Jalen. I understand the knee injury is a thing, but last season, even when he was in the pocket, he was actually, if I'm not mistaken, he was actually top of the league in pocket
Yep.
passing.
Yep. So you're from what I take there, because this is something we've discussed a lot this week on this show, is because everyone's talking about the 2 interceptions, the AJ Brown pass and the Quez pass. There were guys open underneath. Are you blaming? So you're blaming the play call, not Jalen Hurts for making those throws, because that's how I kind of see it. Where Jalen is being told, "This is the read. This is what your first read is. You see, you let it rip." But on the flip side, doesn't Jalen have some control once the play happens to kind of ad lib a little bit and not make those plays if he knows it's not the right play? So is it Jalen's fault, or is it the play calling fault in those specific situations?
See, and I think that's where that gray area is, right? Because if
Yeah,
Jalen, cause, all right, working in the regular business industry, right?
yeah,
Your manager tells you to approach the customer one way. If you approach them a different way and still have semi-success, it's not going to be looked at like they trust you. At this point, and I get this from when Jalen said the whole commitment thing. There's got to be a commitment to winning, right? You don't play for a referee, not in this season. You don't play for their calls at all. Like this has been the most inconsistent season I feel like in NFL history when it comes to calls. You play to win, and that's who Jalen is. And it feels like Nick Sirianni took a cop out in that matter. And if Jalen just goes off script, right, throws it
mhm,
to Kenny Gainwell. Kenny Gainwell gets the ball, runs it, fumbles it. Whose fault is it? It's Jalen's fault because Nick Sirianni like I told you to throw it to AJ Brown. But if he succeeds, then Nick Sirianni's praising him. But it's just too much of a gray area. I feel like for a kid like Jalen to go through. I think we all forget he's still kind of young. I think he's like 25 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah,
Um, but this whole debacle, I feel like, and I said this on Flipping the Birds, I feel like it falls on Nick Sirianni more than it falls on anybody else.
yeah. I mean, it's funny because I did a poll after Monday's game or Tuesday morning. Who to blame? Hurts. Sirianni, Brian Johnson, other, and Sirianni got out of the three names named. There's about 1,400 votes. Only about 22% voted Nick Sirianni to blame. It was close to 40 for Jalen Hurts. It was like 38% for Brian Johnson. I like you. I think it's got to be more on Nick Sirianni than anybody else because, I mean, the boss is who takes a if you give an assignment to an employee and they don't listen to what you have to do, who's gonna be to blame? Your boss's boss is gonna go to the boss and yell at him. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So Nick Sirianni is the one at the top of the food chain, and he's got to be held accountable for some of this.
And exactly. And don't forget, in his press conference this week, he said it. This is my offense that we're running. This is a wide receiver based offense. This is the guy who was a wide receiver when he was playing. So don't you think he's going to want to focus on his top wide receivers and making things
Right.
happen in that regard? Um, we've seen what Brian Johnson could do in Florida. I understand that doesn't translate to the pros, via Chip
Right.
Kelly. But my thing is like, I feel like we can't it's 75-25. 25% of Brian Johnson not having the gonads to approach Nick Sirianni and say, like, hey, no, this is not the right call. This is not the right play
Right.
we should run right now. And 75% on Nick Sirianni to run this vanilla bland offense that is not successful. You can't run the same offense 2 years in a row in this league. People are going
Right.
to figure out very quickly. And people know Jalen's going to run off an RPO. They know he's going to do a QB draw. You saw Christian McCaffrey predict that play.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you're you're not
Oh,
playing
hold on, I got to
fundamental
cut you off
football.
because did you see Nick Sirianni's response to that?
Yeah, he was
He said we've
complimenting
never run
CMC.
that play before. Good eye from that guy. Like his response was just so like a slap
Meanwhile,
in the
they run
face
it on
to us.
third down every game
Ex-
this
ex-
year.
How can he say with a straight face that he's never run that play before?
It's weird. It feels like Doug Peterson when Doug Peterson didn't have an answer for anybody in the media,
Right.
which is very concerning. But I said a couple weeks ago, Nick Sirianni has to get his head out of his ass and just see what's in front of you right now. Call it what it is. I mean, listen, if your team sucks right now, you got to call it how it is and fix it. You can't
Yeah.
be blindsided and think like, yeah, we're gonna make it still.
Yeah. I mean, so you say you brought up how young Jalen Hurts is, and it's funny. I titled a show without seeing your article, this week about they're a victim of their own success. We sometimes forget Jalen Hurts is only in his third season. How
Hmm.
many seasons was it before Josh Allen burst out and became a superstar? Patrick Mahomes is a different story. You know what I mean? But Justin Herbert is in his third year. Joe Burrow's in his third year or fourth year. We forget how young Jalen Hurts is, that he hasn't even completed his development, but because he had such excessive success last year, we kind of bumped him up. And I think the way you wrote your article, so I did go back and read it, was a little different than how I was explaining it. They, to an extent, are a victim of, they were in a rebuild in 2021.
Hmm.
2022, we didn't even know who our quarterback was going to be. I mean, they did try to get Russell Wilson before 2022. So this whole thing was kind of, we took the league by storm last year, and they didn't have any time to really see where their deficiencies were because they were riding so high. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It makes perfect sense. They had a long season last year. They made it to the Super Bowl. They had this wild success. Jalen signs his wild contract in the offseason. He signs with Jordan Brand on top of that. Nick
Yeah.
Sirianni's head gets inflated. Like these things, like when you're winning, when you're on top of the mountain, you're seeing things from a different angle. You're not seeing things for what it is. Like you don't see the ceiling, which
Yeah.
ironically the Eagles are figuring out. Like there is a ceiling that you can actually bump into if you're not strategically planning ahead. I feel like they really let last season get to them, and they were on the top of the mountain. They were top dog. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like you said, this team was in a retool, a rebuild not too long ago. Jalen was questionably not going to be the quarterback.
Right.
Everybody's making fun of Nick Sirianni, and I feel like they lost that pride. They lost that fire. They went into the season expecting everybody to roll over, and that's
Mhm.
not going to happen. And you saw that against the Jets. You saw that against the 49ers. I mean, you let the 49ers come into your house and blow the hell out of you. Like that's just mind-boggling.
Yeah. I mean, you see a lot of people talking because you just said a whole bunch of things there. Jalen Hurts with his big contract, Nick Sirianni's head growing. There's a lot of people because Eagles Nation's in panic mode right now, and I get it. Like, I don't look at the people panicking and saying things like some of them are trolls, but some of them are just Eagles fans in overreaction panic mode, questioning
Mhm.
Jalen Hurts getting the contract, questioning Nick Sirianni's future with this team. If you had a pick, you know, one thing that would be a bigger mistake. I'm not overreacting. I'm not firing Nick Sirianni. I'm not, off on Jalen Hurts or anything. But if big picture, this is a collapse, who's more to blame? Jalen Hurts' contract being a mistake, or Nick Sirianni might not be the right coach for this team?
Nick Sirianni. I'm still not out on Jalen Hurts because he's still putting up the numbers.
Yeah,
I don't want to say he's a generational talent, but he's in that bracket where you look at, the NFL is like, wow, it's a revolutionary quarterbacks playing the position. He's Lamar Jackson, he's Joe Burrow, he's Pat Mahomes even as well. Like, you took away these big wide receivers from Pat Mahomes, and look what happened. Um, but my thing is, Nick Sirianni he's a victim of himself. It's the weirdest thing. Like, I hate saying this, but you remember those guys in high school who they were the top dog. Everybody loved them, everybody wanted to beat them. This, that, and
it
third.
wasn't me.
It definitely wasn't me either. But then they get out of high school and they're in college, and you realize that they were just somebody that bled just like you. And I feel like Nick Sirianni hasn't really figured that out yet. Like you are just like every other coach in the NFL, except
Right.
you didn't maximize on your craft. You didn't do what Kyle Shanahan does. You didn't do what Andy Reid does. You chose to just celebrate coming in second. And
Yeah.
to me, that's the most non-Philly thing to do. But if I'm Jeffrey Lurie, I'm looking at it as like, hey, like it's not. It sucks because Brian Johnson's gonna be a scapegoat, right? No matter what. But they should have a veteran offensive consultant, whether it's
Yeah.
Frank Reich or something of that sort, to help develop Brian Johnson. I'm okay with the Matt Patricia stuff right now because I feel like Sean Desai, whether he's with us or not next season, like the guy's learning from somebody right now, right? And
Right.
it seems like from listening to Patricia last night, he seems like he's humbled himself a bit, right?
Yeah. He wants
I
another opportunity to head coach.
Yes,
He's not going to get that
exactly.
unless he comes in and does things here, well, right?
Exactly, but you need to give him another season for him to do anything well, because this
Yeah.
personnel is not where it should be, right? But it's this is the product of what happens when you rush a rebuild. You
Right.
plug the holes and you won, and now you thought you could plug the holes again and win again, but it's not the case. Like the Eagles, Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, they're learning from no mistakes right now.
Yep. I mean, you say it, and you say Frank Reich or whoever, and that's why I didn't like the head the coordinator hirings in the offseason because both of them were so young and so inexperienced. And I actually, when they brought in Matt Patricia, I'm like, that's perfect. They should be doing the same thing before the season started on the offensive side. I don't know who was available off the top of my head at the time. Obviously, Frank Reich wasn't. But last Friday we had Coach Dale Carlson. He's a 40-year coaching veteran on the show, and I brought Frank Reich up to him. He's coached in college, semi-pro. He's worked under Tommy Tuberville, a bunch of big name coaches in college. And I said, if you were the offensive play caller on the Eagles, and then 14 weeks into the season you bring in Frank Reich, isn't that more of a distraction than an asset? And he said, yes, actually, bringing in someone like Frank Reich because of the success he's had, out there could be a problem. So, are you still on board that they should be bringing in Frank Reich at this point?
At this point, no, not in this season. I feel like
Right.
after the season, yeah, you bring somebody like that in to help develop your playbook. Because this, and again, this is why I'm saying it's the Nick Sirianni thing, right? Remember before he
Right.
gave the reins over to Shane Steichen, the offense was just as vanilla, right? I mean, we were all
Yeah.
complaining about it, and then Shane Steichen took over, and we complained about the screens, but the screens were effective, and then they developed into this offensive powerhouse. But I feel like you got to bring somebody that can actually take this away from Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni wants to be more like a game manager coach, which I
Right.
respect and I get. But at this point, it's kind of like you've inputted so much of what you want in this offense that you got to realize if it's not working. I'm approaching Brian Johnson and saying, hey,
Right.
constructive criticism. What do we need to do to be better? What can you bring to the table that I'm not doing, that I'm not bringing to the table as well? And those are the honest conversations that need to be had. And it feels like week to week we have not seen that honest conversation on the field at least.
I mean, we talked about Jalen Hurts a second ago, and I mentioned Justin Herbert, and Marshawn brought up somebody brought up Justin Herbert's name. It's not like the Chargers fans are off on Justin Herbert, and they haven't even had remotely the success that
Mhm.
the Eagles have had under Jalen Hurts. So sometimes, I don't want to say I'm trying to fire Nick Sirianni, but some of the failures of this team are on Nick Sirianni because you wouldn't want to move on. It's a lot harder to find a quarterback than it is to find a head coach, in my
Yep.
opinion. I know that sounds weird because you want to have your coach and then have the quarterback under the coach, but it's a lot harder. So, if anybody had to be blamed and moved on from Nick Sirianni would be it, in my opinion. And I thought that was an interesting comment up there earlier about, Justin Herbert. They're not moving on from him, and nobody's talking about that in Los Angeles, about the
But I feel like
Chargers.
they shouldn't be moving on from Justin Herbert because we saw his potential. He was right there
Yeah.
with Pat
And
Mahomes
you're
and
you're talking
Josh
to
Allen.
I've crushed Justin Herbert so many times on this show
Mhm.
and on social media, but I wouldn't move on from him either.
No, you're right. It's so much harder to find a quarterback. Look, the Eagles were almost stuck in quarterback purgatory if we didn't get Jalen Hurts in that COVID draft. Um, but you can't move on from Jalen Hurts. You got to bring
Right.
somebody in that's wiser beyond what Sirianni is in the offensive room. Like you got to be smart about this. And I think this is what drives me nuts about sports is that common sense is really a thing that exists in sports. Like if
Right.
you have common sense, you're gonna be damn successful. Real life, not so much. But in sports, like if you have common sense, things are gonna work out for you. If you know that the run game needs to be established, common sense says run the ball. If you know that Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown and Devontae Smith will better suit this offense if we were running slants or in the middle of the field, run the slants. Like you have to be smart without thinking you're the smartest person in the room. And I feel like that's what Nick Sirianni is missing. That self awareness piece, that self reflection piece,
Right.
which we were all looking at Howie Roseman not so long ago. When he thought he was the smartest person in the room, building this old team on veterans, and Howie Roseman redeemed himself, right? So now it's Nick Sirianni's turn. You got to understand, you are not the greatest coach of all time. You are nowhere near that, and it's perfectly fine to think like that. Like,
Yeah.
develop yourself, man. Like, be honest with yourself and keep your job.
Yeah.
You have a perennial quarterback. You have a perennial wide receiver, two of them actually.
Yeah.
Do something about it.
I mean, I love K1's comment here, and I've kind of gone back to this a bunch of times. It's we do feel like we're talking about a 4-10 team right now. You know what I mean? Not a 10-4. And I had the Eagles exactly at 10-4 at this point in my one and only prediction, coming in the year. And 3 out of the 4 losses I called. I called the Jets loss, I called the Seahawks and Dallas
Mhm.
loss. Um, but it's not just the fact that K1, I keep trying to drive this point home. It's not that we're 10-4 or 4-10. It's how we've gone about losing these last 3 games. Like Brian said, that 49ers game, letting them come in and smoke you like that, it just gives such a bad feeling. And there's everybody to blame. You've mentioned Howie Roseman's name like 3 times. I mean, we all anointed Howie Roseman executive of the year before the season even started. And
Mhm.
obviously we're seeing as it played out, hindsight, looking back, that a lot of the decisions he made this offseason weren't the right decision. James Bradbury, Darius Slay, Nolan Smith over, 3 or 4 different names. There are a lot of iffy decisions that he has made, this year. So there being 10-4 is great. Being 4-10 would be bad. I get that, K1. But there's a lot of blame to go around, in my opinion, why this team is 10-4, but with such a negative feeling right now.
I think, and I say this out of the kindness of my heart because I love being a fan. I love
Right,
I just love, talking sports at the end of the day, but
right,
at the same time, like, guys, constructive criticism is not bad criticism. I had to learn that
right.
the hard way in my life, right? Um, I'm not going to comment on
What do
that.
you want?
No, don't.
What do you want me to say? Do you want me to say it's all roses? It's all sunshine and roses right now in Philly right now. I mean, we had to have a pep rally down at the NovaCare complex yesterday to try to hype people up. Jake, I love you, buddy.
Listen, constructive criticism is not bad. It's how you develop. It's how you become better in life, and it's how you become a better athlete. Jalen Hurts has taken nothing but criticism all his career. People said he wasn't going to be a top quarterback. People said he couldn't throw in the pocket. The guy took that and developed himself. I'm just saying, expectations are different from this team, right? If they sucked last year, if they made it to the playoffs, we're out of the first round, this conversation would still be happening because you want this team to be better. And I'm not talking about
nobody's talking. I saw your other comment too. Nobody's talking about firing the coach. No way, shape, or form. We're not in this. I actually had just come up with another angle to not bring in Frank Reich. So we're not talking about it. We're talking about what the problem is on this team, and we're trying to bring up what there's a lot of Eagles Nation that is talking about. Jalen Hurts is the wrong decision. Nick Sirianni is fired. We're not talking about it. We're bringing up the topics that we see out there. I am in no way, shape, or form firing Nick Sirianni.
I would. Firing Nick Sirianni or moving on from Jalen Hurts would just show how disorganized this organization is, and you don't want. If I'm Jeffrey Lurie, I don't want that. If I'm Jeffrey Lurie, what I do want though is for my guys to see what's wrong, look at it, and fix it. That's my constructive criticism at the end. I feel like that's the key thing.
I just thought of it. I don't know what made me think about this. Frank Reich being brought in now or in the offseason, that would kind of put Nick Sirianni in an awkward position where, Marshawn said up ahead that, I think it was Marshawn said it, that Nick Sirianni would listen to Frank Reich. Sorry, there's so many comments here. There it is. Nick will listen to Frank Reich. Problem is also that Frank Reich being in the building and knowing how Philly fans love Frank Reich from his time here earlier, think he's this great coach, that if Nick Sirianni slips up one time, everybody's going to be saying, well, Frank Reich should just get promoted to head coach. I kind of feel like Frank Reich here might be a distraction to Nick Sirianni to an extent.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. But my thing is, like, if I'm Nick Sirianni, I want to keep my job. I want to get paid millions of dollars to coach probably one of the better franchises in the league. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And it's right there, right? It's not bad how you take it and use it. Like, you got to take the constructive criticism. You got to self-reflect and be like, hey, like, shit, like, I'm failing right now. What do I need to do to be better? If I bring Frank Reich, I'm bringing a guy that was my mentor. Like, hey, outside looking in, what am I doing wrong? Help me this season. Let's get your reputation back intact, and go from there. And I completely disagree. Sirianni is the problem because he's the head coach, guys. Like, this is not soccer. Like, this guy is the head coach. He has a game plan. It's a scheme. This is his offense at the end of the day. These are his decisions that they're making on the field.
Yeah, we're not. I see all these comments thinking, like, Brian, can I say, do you feel like this conversation is negative? Because all the comments are saying that we have a very negative attitude towards the conversation. Hell, I know Duck was on Liam's show saying the morning show has been very negative this week. It's not negative. We're just criticizing what's wrong with this team. You know what I mean? I think we have a fair conversation going here.
So let's do this. Let's talk about what's going well with the team right now.
Yeah, let's do that. So what's going well? The show's over if we're going to do that. No. I mean, there's good. We're getting some healthy players back. You know what I mean? We still have a top-tier offense. Even as bad as our offense is, we still have a top-tier offense.
Absolutely. Listen, statistically, they're there. It's just the minor things that need to be adjusted to be consistently there. And that's what you want from your team, right? You guys want this team to win a Super Bowl. You guys want this team to win in the playoffs. Okay, to do so, they got to self-reflect. They got to look at what's going on, and they got to just produce. It's nothing wrong with taking a step back and looking at the whole picture as opposed to just continue to walking forward.
Man, I'm so far behind on the comments here. Let's stay focused on the positive. Let's actually look at the game itself too. Sure. In an extent, it's the Giants. You know what I mean? It's a division rival. It's Tommy DeVito or Tommy Cutlets or Tommy whatever you want to call him. It's very hard to look at this game and say the Eagles are going to blow them out because of the way they've played the last couple of weeks. But on the flip side, obviously, the Eagles on paper are 10 times more talented than the Giants are. especially with the quarterback situation there in New York. You know, before we even get into the Boston Scott part of the conversation, what what can the Eagles do on Monday to follow through, be positive, dominate the team? Where's the statistical advantage of this Eagles team against the Giants team?
I think right here is when the Eagles can actually just experiment a little bit, right? You can actually see, run. Sorry, my dog's out of
It's
control this morning.
dude,
Um,
I had one of my dogs take a dump right in the next to me in the middle of a show once. So whatever. That's why I keep my office door closed now. So
um, what the Eagles could do to pull out a victory, I think this week is kind of just going back to the basics a little bit, man. Just take your time with everything. Listen, you have semi-healthy quarterback now going in. He's not as sick as he was, right?
right,
You can experiment with DeAndre Swift. I feel like they did that against what was last name? The Seahawks. They gave him a lot of carries, which is great, right? But now you can experiment with, hey, like we ran slants against the 49ers with AJ Brown. Like, let's see if we do that consistently with AJ and Devontae, get the ball on both of their hands. I think this game to me is just going back to the basics. It's
hmm
going back and just, self-reflecting on the loss and being like, okay, like let's not panic. Let's not be too urgent to the point where we shit on ourselves. Let's just be efficient. I think just taking this game for what it is. I don't want to say the Giants are a bum team. The record says that every team is good in the NFL. They're all professionals, right?
hmm
But I do think the Eagles. This is the get right game. This is the get back game where it's kind of like, hey, like if they put up 30 points, there's no way you're telling me that this team is not finding their groove again. If they
yeah.
put up 17 points and it's a struggle, then it's kind of like, okay, like they haven't figured it out yet.
See, I actually, to an extent, want them to put up less than 30 against the Giants. But this because again, this is like I don't have a specific number, but I can't tell you how many times we came into a Friday show this year and said two things: that the opposing team has a bad offensive line, we should be able to get a lot of sacks, then we don't do it. And how many times we've said that we've gone into a game saying, well, we're going up against a bad rush defense, we need to run the ball, and we don't. The Giants are, I forget now, I looked it up before the show. I think they're the third or fourth worst run defense in the NFL. So again, we should be running the ball. We should be controlling the clock, keeping our defense off the field, all that stuff. If we win 21 or 24 with 21 or 24 points or something low like that, it's because we've dominated the clock with the run game. So that just proves that Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson, they looked at the game plan for once and saw the opportunity to run the ball. So I actually want to see, I know Boston Scott's the giant killer, and everybody loves the Boston Scott against the Giants story. I don't care what running back it is. I just want to see the running backs be utilized a lot this week because that would tell you Nick Sirianni's taking his pride of what he wants to do out of the equation and is doing what actually on paper should be what works.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's funny. I've been I've been kind of dogging Kenny Gainwell all season, but I feel like
Right.
over the last couple of weeks, he's actually
Kenny
looked
Gainwell
pretty.
watches the show, so you know. That's
Oh,
K1. That's Kenny Gainwell, just so you know.
okay. But Gainwell has really been producing great over the last 2 weeks, I want to say.
Mhm.
Not huge numbers, but he's been efficient when he does get the ball in his hands. He's been running through the line, and finding the cracks. But I feel like you're right. Like, listen, use Boston Scott on a screen pass or two.
Right.
Use DeAndre Swift as your main running back. Use Kenny Gainwell when you need these little chunky for gains.
Right.
Um, it's just about going back to the basics and just figuring out what your identity is. I feel like nobody can nobody in the world can tell you what the Eagles' identity on offense is right now. Nobody. They're pass heavy offense. That's really it. But you don't know what they do well, and they have
Mhm.
great talent back there to not be able to not be able to tell you that. They have a Dallas Goddard. They have a Devontae Smith. They have a AJ Brown. Hell, they have a Julio Jones in there still, even though he's in the back
Mhm.
end of his career.
Mhm.
They have they have Quez. Everybody's against Quez. I'm not gonna mention that because then it's a negative show, right? Um, but they have a huge amount of talent on offense for nobody to understand what they do well.
I would almost like to see them on offense. I know I just said run the ball, control the clock. Also, just maybe do a little up tempo where Jalen gets to just call the game. Like instead of worrying about what Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni are saying in his head, laser focus on AJ Brown. Just let him like
Let him do
speed
what
up
he
the
does
game a
best.
little bit. Run it like backyard football style. Get on the ball after every single play, and just let him do what he does best because everybody says he doesn't read the field because he's not going to the underneath guy. I don't think that's the problem. He's doing what he's told. He's doing what he's coached to do, which is fine. A.J. Brown, which is fine because when it's working, there's nobody better than A.J. Brown.
And
You know what I
nobody's
mean?
complaining about it.
Yeah, and nobody's complaining. If Quez Watkins doesn't get PI'd there and catches that deep touchdown pass, no one complains about that pass. You know, if A.J. Brown gets the pass interference called on him, like the play was run for, no one's complaining about it. So just let them freewheel it a little bit. You know what I mean? Let him do what he does best. Because I'm telling you, last year he read the field perfectly fine. We never questioned his ability to read the field last year. So maybe just let him go a little up tempo, let him call it in the field, and what he sees, you might see more runs, you might see more RPOs, you might see more shorter passes underneath. You might see some of that. So maybe that's something. I mean, I know that means Nick Sirianni has to swallow his pride to an extent, but maybe that would help get this offense out of the rut they're in.
Yeah, I mean, loosen up the reins a bit. I completely agree with that. Just having a free flow offense isn't as bad as it seems, right? Like, and I hate to use them as an example, but the Cowboys last season, they had a free flow offense that just wasn't working, right? But that developed into what they are now. They're a pretty damn good offensive team, like whether you like to say it or not. So allowing Jalen Hurts to just do that, understanding the talents of your players over what you want them to run is huge because you're using everybody's strength as and you're maximizing off of it. AJ Brown is great right after the catch. Why are we seeing only deep passes? Devontae Smith is great in deep passes, but we're seeing a lot of Devontae Smith underneath. DeAndre Swift is a pretty damn good running back when he's open in space. We're not seeing him open in space. Like everything that everybody's good at, you're doing the opposite of. So I feel like it's kind of just just figure out what your team does best. And again, it's constructive criticism. It's just self-reflect, swallow your pride, and just make it happen.
I left this comment up here for a duck because we do have that change of
I'm
pace.
not talking about Rashad Penny.
I'm not talking. I wasn't even going to say his name. I was just going to say we do have this back. We just don't.
Nope.
My question, I don't want to say his name, and this is totally off topic. What is wrong with Rashad? Like, I always thought that since he's been not even active most of the games this year, why didn't he just ask for his outright release at this point? Like, like the player's got to want to play, doesn't he? And he's not get played. Like, what is he being told behind the scenes that he's okay with not playing?
I'm going to tell you one good thing about this. This is the healthiest that Rashad Penny has ever been in his career. Oh, nobody can take that away from him. Nobody.
Nobody can say he's injury prone this year at all.
No, not at all. The guy's been healthy.
Oh man, Llama Day. That's right. I mean, Llama Day would have given a better effort on that quiz.
Why are we not using Oz? Like he's damn productive when he's in the lineup.
Yeah.
But I think Penny, I don't know what the issue is, and that bothers me a lot because I was excited about the Rashad Penny signing. And we saw him have one carry for like 8 yards, I think it was. I don't know what it is.
Rashad Penny should be like Furkan Korkmaz. Yeah,
he
asked out, but then Furkan's asked out for the Sixers like 100 times, and they refused to cut him or even trade Furkan.
I think the Rashad Penny's a pride thing.
They wouldn't even include Furkan in the James Harden trade. That's how much the Sixers did not want to move Furkan Korkmaz.
And it feels very similar, right? Because they let Penny go, and then Penny goes to the Chiefs or something like that and starts mass producing. Everybody's look at the Eagles like, what the hell happened? I don't get why they're not using him. I know Nick said that it's what have you done lately for me in league, and Penny hasn't done anything, but you haven't given Penny the chance to do anything. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about, bro.
And I'm not saying Rashad Penny saves the season at all.
No, not at all.
But he would kind of, everybody loves why am I drawing such a blank in 2017? Who did we bring in?
Jay Ajayi.
And we had the two different things, and we bring in a guy. Like at first, I just thought they were saving him for the end of the season, but now who knows? The Clippers and Sixers said to Furk, nobody wants Furkan Korkmaz at all. I feel bad for Furkan, and I always say it. My wife hates when I crush Furkan on the show because she's got a thing for Furkan because he looks good. I guess I don't know. She's got a thing for Furkan Turkish dudes. I don't know. So anyway, we talked Rashad Penny, obviously, but there's a lot of news on the injury front with the Eagles. Obviously, Avonte Maddox is back at practice. Cam Jurgens was back, but Landon Dickerson is out. Zach Cunningham's still banged up. Darius Slay. First, before we get to the next game with the injuries, about the guys that filled in last week. Sua Peta filled in for Cam Jurgens. Obviously, Kellen Ringo and some of the young cornerbacks. Did any of these guys that filled in last week impress you?
I like how you said that question impressed me. So we're keeping the positive,
Yeah, we're
positive
trying.
stuff
I'm
going.
trying. Everyone says we're being negative when we're really not. So I'm trying to be as positive as possible. I don't need Duck going and tattletaling to Liam about me and being negative. So I'm
Um,
trying to keep it positive.
Hey, Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks, when they're properly utilized, they're damn near studs, man. And I'm actually excited about the future with those two. Sidney Brown, though, I think is the most impressive in my aspect. I don't get why we didn't see much Sidney Brown to begin the season. I understand he was injured for a while, but after that, now with the way Sidney Brown's playing, the Kevin Byard trade doesn't make much sense.
Mhm.
I think that's the best way I can say it, right? The way Keely Ringo's playing and the way Eli Ricks is playing, I don't think both Darius Slay and James Bradbury are back next season. I think one is back, and I feel like it's more likely to be Slay than is Bradbury. But again, like these kind of players that are coming out of the woodworks, I feel like this is why we can't put so much blame on Howie Roseman because he
Mhm.
brought the right guys in, right? Rashad
Mhm.
Penny, for example, brought the right guys in, but the team's not utilizing them, and that drives me nuts to think about because like Keely Ringo, he had one bad game. He came back with a good game, right? I think that he was targeted like 2 or 3 times, no receptions. Um,
I'm just messing with you, Duck. I'm just messing with you.
um, but yeah, Keely Ringo, Eli Ricks, Sidney Brown impressed me. Sua Peta did
It's
not
not. It's not.
impress me.
It's not Keli Ringo.
Keely, I
It's
said right?
Kellen
Yes.
Ringo.
It's-
It's no. It's not. It's just I accidentally said that like 2 weeks ago,
You
and now
called him
nobody.
Kellen,
Now
Phil? You called him
yeah.
outside of his name?
I messed up his name. You know what I mean? So now everyone has to remind me every time his name's mentioned. So now I just say his name's Kellen now, because why not?
Oh God,
There's
that's
so
not
many
good.
names I've butchered this year on this show. So I'm so glad you have such an easy name to say because otherwise I'd find a way to mess up your name as well.
Yeah, I have a 2K default generic name.
Yeah, it's a very generic. It says, yeah. Yeah, okay, sorry. Roseman. Oh, stop with the Roseman
I,
as a fraud. Right. We are stupid as hell for not trying these young guys earlier. See, the thing is, I kind of disagree with Sidney Brown a little bit. I think they should have eased him in more. They should have played him a little bit at first. But I think out of all the young guys you mentioned, Ringo, Ricks, Sidney Brown, I've seen the most potential in Sidney Brown, but I've also seen he's got the most like he still needs to develop the
mhm,
most. He's
yeah.
still like last week against Seattle. He had a really good game, but I still remember two plays specifically in my head where he got beat bad on the tackle because he was just going full force. He doesn't know how to throttle down. He doesn't know how to slow down and
And wrap up.
make the right move all the time. So I think they need to do much more coaching on him. But I see a higher ceiling with him.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is why I feel like the buyer trade doesn't make sense now because had you just had Brown in place and stopped trying to put all these older guys in a way, he would be properly more developed, I want to say at this point. Um, but yeah, he's a shooting missile when he's on one to Byron. Um, Oh, he's a shooting missile when he tries to tackle and he's not wrapping up yet, which is kind of I feel like what Reed Blankenship was at the beginning, but they let Reed Blankenship develop. Um, Keelan Ringo last week, he missed that the week before. I mean, missed that big tackle when he went head first and just didn't wrap up.
Yep.
I just, I think if they had given him time, that these guys would be better suited going into the playoffs. I'm not against the Byard trade. I love the Byard move, but it just feels like that those resources could probably been used for something better. But who knows if we would have used the other person we traded for.
Yeah. So I want to bring up Avonte Maddox now because obviously Avonte Maddox we saw him kind of lurking in the background last week, and then obviously his practice window was open, and I think he was like a full participant in practice yesterday. So it might not be the end of the season; it might be in the next week or two that we see Avonte Maddox back. And when it came out last week that he was kind of lurking in the background and might be back soon, I put out an Avonte Maddox appreciation tweet.
Hmm.
Okay. And I've been very critical of the Eagles about bringing in and bringing back a lot of injury prone guys, including Avonte Maddox. But even I know the importance of how much better this Eagles defense is with Avonte Maddox than without Avonte Maddox. What do you do if Avonte Maddox comes back this week, next week, for the first round of the playoffs, whatever it may be? You got Slay if he's back. You got Bradbury that's not having a good season at all. You got Ringo, who's stepping up in these opportunities. What's your cornerback room look like when Avonte Maddox comes back?
And it's funny. I put
That's
that
a
in the
really
Eagles
tough, in
chat
my
the other
opinion.
day.
You
Yeah.
can't bench Slay or Bradbury, but you kind of want to at this point, don't you?
You do, but the issue at hand is Maddox is not he's a terrible outside cornerback. He's a great slot cornerback. But I think my question, it goes in hand with what do you do with Bradley Roby? I mean,
Yeah,
he's been your great, slot quarterback when he's been healthy. But then again, like, rotation is everything in this league. Keeping guys healthy, something we haven't seen much with the defensive line. Like the rotation last
right.
season kept this defensive line pretty damn healthy. They were,
Mhm.
they led the league in sacks. This season, there hasn't been much rotation. Guys are playing the most snaps they've played in a couple of years. Um, but I feel like with the cornerbacks, having that rotation is gonna be great. Keeping Avonte Maddox healthy for the playoffs is gonna be great because you could sub him in with Bradley Roby. You're not missing a beat. Outside cornerbacks, though, James Bradbury, as much as we want to, is not leaving the field because of his contract.
Mhm.
Um, but it wouldn't hurt if he saw less snaps and he saw more snaps out of the young guys in a game like the Giants, a game against like the Cardinals, and the last game, right? And just giving them that confidence going into the playoffs. Where if Bradbury takes 15 snaps and you have Akili taking another 15, and
Right.
you have Eli taking another 15, like separating it like that, I feel like there's no harm, no foul if you're a team player. And you want to get the most out of your team, and I think
Right.
that would be the ideal way to do it. Just rotate guys in and out at an efficient rate.
There's two comments here that kind of are linked but kind of similar. So the first one here by well, both are Marshawn comments. Maddox needs to be replaced. I get that. And that's what everyone kept telling me in my appreciation tweet. I get that. I wanted Maddox replaced before this year. But right now, week 16 of the NFL season, if you can add someone of Avonte Maddox's, ability level, even remotely healthy, you take advantage of that. And then the other comment here from him that Slay and Bradbury will not be benched by this staff. And I get it. If everybody's healthy, you're going to go back to our opening week starting lineup of cornerbacks, in my
And you
opinion,
don't.
once they're
I
all
feel like you
healthy.
don't bench Slay. I don't get what the
Yeah,
disrespect on
the
Slay
Slay
is. He's
hate.
had a good season.
Yeah, he's had a very good season. I think the problem with Darius Slay is just the fact that in his time here in Philly, this is the most he's mouthed off. Or most he's, I don't want to say mouthed off. That's the wrong word. That's a very negative word. Way to say it. He's spoken up a lot more than he has in the past this year, and I think it's kind of rubbed some people the wrong way because he's doing it during this downward, stretch of the season that we've had. So
But we're the negative ones, right? We're the
yeah, we're
negative
the
ones.
negative ones. Yeah, exactly, exactly. I don't know where this negativity comes from. Yeah, I don't know what you do with the cornerbacks there. It's tough. You say you think Slay won't be back next year, or did you say Bradbury? I'm sorry, I forget what you said.
I
You
think
said Brad.
one of Slay or Bradbury won't be back, but I feel like it's more
Yeah,
likely Bradbury won't be back.
right,
I
but
just think
isn't Bradbury on a longer term contract? Isn't he going to be
he
harder contractually to move? And
he
Darius Slay,
is.
if Matt Patricia is your defensive coordinator next year,
Yeah.
conspiracy theory me said he had surgery because Patricia was in charge.
Well, apparently Patricia started the press conference saying that he just finished hugging Darius Slay, and Darius Slay was one of the first people to embrace him when he came to the building, which I
Wow.
feel like is pretty awesome. But Bradbury, if I'm not mistaken, if you trade him pre-June 1st or cut him pre-June 1st, I think it's like only $4 million, if I'm not mistaken, as opposed to
Okay.
after that.
Okay. So
But
there
Bradbury,
is a way to move on from him
yeah,
easily.
there's
Okay.
definitely a way to move on. They gotta eat some money, which regardless, that's the league, right? You gotta eat money to get the right
Yeah.
players.
Who I see your Elias Ricks and Kellen Ringo. Who walks with Elias? That Marshawn. That's what I'll just say. Key phrase. Key phrase this summer. Yeah, I don't even want to worry about this summer. I want to worry about right now. All these players. I don't even want to read it because that account has posted a lot of the negativity today. Slay is far from having a great season. Just tell us you love Jennifer Slay's banana pudding. I have not. I don't like banana pudding, but I
I
would
love
try.
banana pudding. I,
Yeah,
I'm dying to try banana pudding.
yeah, I don't eat bananas. I think bananas are the worst fruit ever created.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like bananas. I think bananas are just the absolute worst thing in the world. Who's calling? Like, I don't know who's calling to bench Slay. I don't think anybody is. And finally, we get a comment on the linebackers here and what they mean. Shaq Leonard could turn out to be a smart signing. I thought we were going to see a much bigger game from Shaq Leonard last week, and outside of Nicholas Morrow, Shaq Leonard was the only other linebacker on the field. He only played like 20 snaps or 25 snaps. Was that more of a case of the situation against Seattle, or was that more of a, he's just not up to par yet with this team, in your opinion?
I think it's a little bit of both. I
Okay.
think with the situation with Seattle was that Nicholas Moore was balling. He was actually everywhere, which is great to see. But also you're bringing up Shaq Leonard up to speed. And yeah, I did want to talk about that comment
Yeah.
because, yeah, we'll talk about that next. But I think Shaq Leonard is being brought up to speed as slowly as possible. I think we also do have to remember, like he did have like I think like two back surgeries as well, so he's still trying to get his legs underneath him. That was the issue in Indianapolis before he came over. But yeah, I mean, going back to Isaiah Rodgers, I feel like a lot of people
Yeah.
are overlooking that. Like Avonte Maddox has been replaced already. Let's just look at it like that. Like Isaiah Rodgers is not going to come in here
That's
and not be a key ingredient. Like that was to me that was a steal of a signing. I get he's out because for betting on the team, even though I feel like the referees bet on teams. Um, I think that was a key
I love that
signing.
little negative dig that you slid. Like you have your voice at this tone, and then you brought it down a little bit just to slide that in there.
I'm very, very pissed off at the officiating from the Super Bowl to this season. Um, it just feels very. What was the guy named from NBA? Tom Donahue, the guy who went to jail.
Tim Dunaghy, yeah. If
Tim,
you,
Tim
I've said it
Donahue.
on this show before. If you haven't watched the Netflix documentary on his situation, they did a whole like 2-hour documentary.
Yeah,
You
apparently
have
like the
to go
mafia was
watch it.
involved and everything. It was
Yeah,
just,
I mean, they actually get some of the mafia guys to be interviewed for the documentary, and they
bro.
say it's all across. Like they just blatantly stare right in the camera and say, "We got a lot of stripes under our thumb." So it happens. There's no doubt about it that they
Yeah,
did
it
it.
happened in the Super Bowl when they called that defensive holding, and then they didn't call the holding on the offensive line, and Patrick Mahomes didn't complain about that one, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I
My
feel like
brother, yeah, at EOP. My brother went to O'Hara with Tim, so they were like a grade apart. So yeah, exactly.
yeah.
It is frustrating, but I think the officiating in all of sports, but not just football, but specifically in football, every game I watch that's not an Eagles game, it just seems like it's been an issue. But I don't also know if just in the age of social media, we've just put it under more of a microscope than we have in years past. Because as social media grows, as more people get access to film footage and everybody's an armchair GM and armchair, commentator now, has it always just been this bad? And we just are keeping a closer eye on it, maybe?
I feel like it hasn't been this bad.
Okay.
It's weird. Like I get what you're saying because I think that does play a part of it. Like looking at the Julian Love interception to seal the game where his foot never touched the
Right.
floor. Um, I think it's never been this bad. Like we're seeing
Right.
the wildest play calls, and the fact that I feel like the fact that you can actually say, "Hey, Jim Douglas is going to ref for this game." He calls a lot of offensive holding on
Right.
offensive lines, and they actually do that. I feel like it's bad if you're that predictable, man. Like again, I get if you have certain demons that you're going through outside of life that is controlling your job, that's on you. But I feel like the NFL needs to invest in officiating and put a better product on the field if they want this league to continue to get positive reactions as opposed to negative reactions. Even though negativity sells, and we are not selling this podcast, by the way. Just saying.
Eric wants to know if we're brothers. Yeah, we're the Dudley brothers, right? I'm Bubba Ray. You're Devon. That's the best I can say. And I've never seen an Italian K1 look like this guy over here.
Am I gonna
Oh
go
man,
like Byron for the rest of my life now?
yeah, it's good. Once you get a name messed up on this show, it stays. They're gonna come on flipping the birds and call you Byron now, just so you know. Just so you
Oh
know.
man, no, we're
But
not doing
back to
that.
this gambling and the rest thing, Chuck. This is a topic that could be. We could do a 2-hour show just talking this. Me and my man Mark, who's been on the show with me plenty of times in the past. He's brought it up so many times about how gambling is ruining sports. But gambling's always been involved in sports.
Mhm.
It's just now it's on every other commercial during a Monday Night Football game is a gambling commercial. It's on the fields. They advertise it. Some stadiums have like bars that are dedicated towards gambling at the stadiums. So the NFL and sports will never stop getting in bed with them because there's money to be made there. But there's definitely a conversation to be had on what Chuck's saying here. I just know it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, I think there definitely is a conversation to be had. I personally think if you're monitoring the players when they make bets or family members make bets, you need to damn sure make sure that you monitor the officiating as well. Like,
Yeah.
it has to be a level playing field because you can't have these guys reffing the game, calling these plays and altering outcomes of these games. And why I'm saying it got worse is because like it's literally determined outcomes from last year to this year. Like the Super Bowl was determined off of last minute call in the last quarter of the game, last couple of minutes, and then you have like the Chiefs game the other day, even though Kadarius Toney was way off the line.
Yeah.
But you have it determining so many different outcomes, so many different records are changing because of it. It's getting out of hand. And I feel like you got to nip it in the bud before it gets worse. Because if it gets worse, you're gonna end up in a place where like, hey, basketball is probably gonna be the main sport in the country again.
It's
You,
funny because like it's not just the gambling. It's just not like if they owe money to somebody. It's the leagues getting involved, telling them how to like officiate a game. Like obviously the tush push. It's been a hot topic all year. But
yeah,
you got the NFL trying to do what they can to stop it, and they tell the refs to keep an eye for the like the lineman's hands over the ball, and clearly it's Jason Kelsey's hand that's always up there, right?
yeah,
But they keep calling it because they're being told to. You know what I mean? Like, so they're influencing a game on so many different levels that it's kind of frustrating to an extent. And then in that
yeah,
Tim Donaghy documentary that I talked about, it's not just the leagues telling them what to do. It's not just what the gamblers are telling them what to do. They talk amongst themselves. I forget the exact story from the documentary, but someone told Tim Donaghy about I had a bad running in my game with Allen Iverson. And can you make sure Allen Iverson doesn't go off tonight? Make a statement by calling every ticky-tack foul, every palming violation, because he rubbed me the wrong way when he said something to me in the last game. So Tim Donaghy would go out and say, sure, I'm going to call 20 penalty or 20 fouls on Allen Iverson this game. So they do that. They go predetermined into a game that I'm going to have an agenda, and that's the problem.
hmm that's a huge problem. I mean, if you want to say the Eagles should lose the game, I'm not gonna call pass interference on the last thing, and I'm not even gonna look at the replay and see if Julian Love's feet were even down. Um, these things are just it's too detrimental to the league. Like I like what the MLB is doing, where they're talking about robot umpires,
Yeah.
that whole ordeal, which is great, it's smart.
I was so
Um,
against it before, but now as I've gotten
it's
older,
making too much sense.
yeah,
But
it
I
makes
feel like
too
with
much sense
football,
to
you can't
I
do that.
saw I forget what national commentator, and I never praise national commentators because they're normally not on the same page or wavelength as me. But someone said Tuesday or Wednesday after the game when they reviewed the Quez Watkins interception play. Every turnover is reviewed, right? That's the rule in the NFL. You don't have to throw a challenge flag. Everyone is reviewed. Well, if you're reviewing the play and there's a clear, blatant penalty that caused the turnover, shouldn't that be up for review as well? Like there are so many ways that they could fix because of technology. You can have robot umpires. You look at a play, but you're not changing a play unless it's only half of the reason. You know what I mean? Like there's so many ways that they can improve reffing and umpiring and officiating sports, but they don't.
Yeah, and I feel like money's money, right? Money talks at the end of the day, and I feel like that's the whole agenda. They get more publicity for finding out that a top team lost than they would if the top team won.
Absolutely agree. And yeah, and I think this is part of it. It's part of the social media. It's the part of the cameras are all over the place. We're just noticing more, than we did in the past. That's at least where I lean with it. And everyone has 10. I just upgraded to 1040, just so you know. I was still on my 720i TV for literally like 3 months ago. It died after 17 years in my house. So I only just upgraded, and I do notice a big difference.
It's a
I
huge
don't have
difference.
4K. I don't
I'm
have
hoping,
4K
yeah,
yet. I'll have to wait another 10 or 15 years to get a 4K TV.
yeah. I'm
All
waiting
right,
for
so
my TV to crap out.
yeah, dude, I still have a box TV, a tube TV in my bedroom.
Oh
Little
wow,
27-inch tube TV.
and
It
that
still
still
works.
works.
Why would I get rid of it?
Well, that makes perfect sense, right?
I mean, everybody wants to upgrade to the new latest technology all the time. I mean, it's Christmas time. This is the perfect time for everybody to upgrade. Um, there is a documentary, Ewing, on Netflix. I forget what it's called. Just type in Tim Donaghy, the NBA ref that got in trouble for gambling. And the documentary will come up. It's a 2-hour approximately doc on Netflix about it. It's fantastic. You must watch it, especially if you're into that whole story. Um, I ain't getting nothing for Christmas. I'll be in Key West on Christmas. That's what I got. Plane ticket to Key West. and a room to stay in Key West. I will be celebrating Christmas in Key West. So, yeah, no problem, Ewing. Much appreciated. All right, so Eagles, Giants, Christmas Day at the link. If you had to put some keys to victory for this Eagles team, and how you're making your decision on this game, how would you do it?
Keys on defense, you got to blitz. Cut the shit. You guys got to blitz. Get aggressive on defense. Offensively, simplify the game plan. If they simplify the game plan, I feel like they can win convincingly. Because you're giving, the 49ers do it well. I forgot who I read this from, but the 49ers are like I think near dead last in pass attempts, but they're first in passing yards, right? So they're giving the ball to the guys in open space where they can actually produce the most out of. And I feel like you have AJ Brown, you have Devontae Smith, you have DeAndre Swift, you even have Boston Scott, Dallas got it. These guys all eat yards at their catch. Get the ball in space for them, let them do what they got to do, and then you're gonna win convincingly. I think those
I
are the
did
two
not
keys
see
for
this
me.
stat. I'm not gonna fact check it. I'm gonna trust Big Al.
No,
Uh,
it's actually a fact. Yeah, it's actually
I,
legit.
well,
Every game
we're
that
what, a
yeah,
12-point favorite, 13-point favorite
we're
now.
not a Monday night football game though. We're a Monday afternoon football game, 4:30.
That's true. That's a fair point. You know what I mean?
That's a little asterisk in there, so we don't
I
count for
like it.
this.
Okay, so if we win, it doesn't count towards the stat. That's
Exactly.
interesting. But this is an interesting stat right here.
Yeah,
Like
every game this season it feels like
that is insane. I did not know that.
money
Um,
talks, Philly. Money
yeah,
talks.
I guess so. I guess so. I don't know. How can the seasoned professional sport? First off, I'm not seasonal. I'm not seasoned. I'm not a professional. I am not an analyst. I still don't even know how to say Aqua Bowman's real name. So your entire statement is completely fabricated here, K1, just so you know. All right. There's so much falsehood in this statement. Okay. And I'm cheap as hell. Plain and simple. I spend my money. I paid the extra $10 to upgrade to the bigger seat on my Spirit flight for Christmas, for this Christmas trip to Key West. That's how I splurge. Okay. That's all, not on, dude, I got my mic set on Timu. Okay. Timu is where this came from.
It's
So
not bad, man. It's not bad. Mine crapped out, so I've been using my AirPods ever since.
yeah, I'm cheap. That's all I could say. I'm still not confident with all the dysfunction in the coaching and front office that we will win this against the miserable Giants.
I'm
And
gonna tell
Duck,
you why they
we're
do win.
okay. Go for it.
The Eagles are gonna, and I'm gonna probably regret saying this, but the Eagles are gonna make for a hell of a storyline going into the playoffs when they win out the next 3 games. And they'll make a hell of a storyline if they actually get to the NFC Championship and beat the 49ers. And I feel like of all teams in the league to expect this out of, and all Philadelphia Eagles teams we ever witnessed outside of the Andy Reid era, this is gonna be the team that does it. I feel like Jalen Hurts saying that nobody's committed enough was a bigger bomb than people want to give it credit for, and I feel like that echoed out throughout the entire organization. So I'm pretty sure things are gonna get a little serious now.
How do you feel about the game being on Christmas Day? Christmas is about a basketball now, right? You know what I mean? Christmas is NBA. You know what I mean? Do you think it's tough
Uh,
for these players to have to get up and want to play on Christmas Day?
I don't think it's
Especially the
tough,
road
but
team. They're on the road for Christmas. Christmas is kind of one of those holidays that's been void of NFL football until the last year or two. I kind of feel bad to an extent that athletes have to play on Christmas.
yeah, I think it's BS that athletes have to play on holidays. I mean, even Thanksgiving, I feel like
Yeah,
they got families too, man. Come on, like let them
yeah,
go spend time with their family. Let them go let them just live. But like the topic of the show has been money talks. Money is
right,
everything, right? It sucks, but I think there's a little added motivation because I feel like you have your family in the stands, right? The only way
yeah.
you can spend Christmas with them is if they're in the area with you. So a lot of these players have their family in the suites, have them in the stands, have them near the end zone, whatever case may be. So there's a little added pressure to perform at your max potential. But yeah, I feel like Christmas Day should be just a day for
I mean,
peace for everybody.
it's not just the players, it's the refs, it's the reporters that have to go down
We
and
don't
cover
like
the
the
game.
refs. No, they could work
Yeah,
as much as they want. They need the extra work.
everybody's got to give up their Christmas for this. Yeah, thank you, Chuck. Merry Christmas to you as well. Glad you're tuning in every single day again now, man. Appreciate you. Um, I'm still not. Oh yeah, so we got through that. Like I'm confident, and you brought up like watch out. Like it was if they win out the Eagles. I don't think that the NFL wants the Eagles to win. And when I say the NFL, I mean the teams. Because if the Eagles get their confidence back, if the Eagles get their mojo back, it's over. Like, do you think the 49ers want to play a confident, motivated Eagles team in January or February, whenever the championship game would be?
I'm going to tell you.
I don't think anybody. Dallas doesn't want to have to come back to Philly again.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the Eagles do get their mojo back. I feel like they're gonna really rip a lot of teams apart. And I feel like, if I'm the Eagles, I'm thinking, hey, NFC Championship game, it's gonna be us in San Francisco if we get if we win the division. So win the division, get San Fran back. Even if you gotta play them in wherever the hell they play at nowadays, you gotta play them over there, rip them apart, do what you gotta do, but have some pride. Just have some pride while you're doing it. And yes, you know what? K1 is right, Phil. Like Target, they got a 65-inch for $400 actually.
I got my new TV. I got a 60-inch 1080
No,
or whatever.
We're talking about the bedroom now. We gotta.
Oh, I don't need a 60-inch in the bedroom. I don't want to talk about. Never mind. It's still the morning time. I was going to talk about inches in the bedroom, but we won't go that route. It's Christmas time. All right, we're not going to go that route right there.
Bigger is better in the bedroom, Phil.
Oh man, that anybody that's been told that's got a problem is all I'm going to say. Oh man, there goes the YouTube ding right there. This show is going to be flagged and limited big time by YouTube because of that comment right there.
The kids are in school. They're not watching. The kids are in school.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you know what? Talk about the kids in school. They got screwed with the day Christmas falls on a Monday. They got to go all this week, and then they go back right after New Year's Day because of where everything fell.
Yeah.
This is definitely the underdogs, and you know what Kelsey says? Yeah, I mean, this season's definitely left plenty of great speech moments for Jason Kelsey if we were parading down Broad Street. Matty, I'm not Negatron. Matty B is Mr. Negatron. Not happy. Like, we're getting complained about we're being too negative on this show. And then some people are saying we're being too positive on this show. We can't please anybody on this show.
Not at all.
Yeah, this would never happen though, Chuck. It would never happen. There's too much money to be made. Yeah. So real quick, we're in the final 10 minutes of the show here. So I don't know if you have a final prediction for the game or not that you want to give. But I want to spend some of this time with our final predictions, but also, thanking everybody. Christmas. We'll have 3 shows next week to round out the new year from Florida. But this is, I'm a big fan of Christmas, Brian, and I love the spirit of Christmas. So I want to use this moment also on top of predictions just to thank everybody for a fantastic year and the growth that Trending in the AM's taken this year, joining PSN and stuff like that. I love the magic of Christmas, and it really makes me think about the good in life. And this show, the PSN family, is all what's good in life.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think adding Trending AM was actually a big hit because it really brought all the shows together. Like we're all in sync with each other, all negatively in sync with each other. Apparently, all these negative shows. Yeah, I mean, as you can tell, like I don't know if you saw Flipping the Birds like the day after Thanksgiving, or not even the day after Thanksgiving. This actually was up during Thanksgiving. My wife is huge on Christmas. It's like her favorite holiday. So Christmas does mean a lot over here as well. But yeah, we definitely appreciate everybody that's really tuned into all the shows and just tuned into PSN in general. I personally think that we bring you the best coverage in Philly. I know there's a lot of guys out there that probably say the same. Some guys will even hold rallies to say the same, right? But I feel like we definitely bring you the best coverage in Philly because we're as honest as can be. You're gonna feel like we're negative. You're gonna feel like we're positive at times, right? But I'd rather be honest with you than just bold-faced lie to you. Like, hey, the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl no matter what, and they're 2, and they're 10 and 5-10, whatever case may be.
Merry Christmas to all and to fire.
Leave Howie out of this.
Yeah. I mean, after the season, we can have the conversation, but not right now.
No, leave Howie out of this. He brought us Jalen Hurts. Stop the nonsense out there.
So you got a family, you got kids, and whatnot. What's your favorite Christmas tradition that you guys have in the Cameron household?
We do. So my daughter is she's 6 years old, and we do the Elf on the Shelf stuff, but not like everybody else. Like everybody does Elf on the Shelf being naughty. Ours is Elf on the Shelf kind of being inspirational, being nice to my daughter. And from the first day that we bring her out, right after Thanksgiving, just seeing her smile on her face. Like that's my best Christmas tradition, where she sees that elf just pop up, and it's like, oh my God, Christmas is almost here, and all the excitement leading up to it. But I think that's a tradition that we've recently instilled, and I love Christmas pajamas too, man. Like I like being comfortable.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more comfortable in life in general. You know what I mean? Like I think we should regulate or make it regular that you just wear pajamas all day, every day, even to work.
I can't comment on that, Phil. I don't know who from work is watching the show, so I can't comment on that. Okay, I wear work attire every day.
Yeah.
I
You're a
work from
work from
home. I
home
work
guy sometimes, so yeah, you
I
only
work
have
from
to.
home, but yeah,
Yeah,
I wear work attire,
I don't know
proper
how that
work
would go. I
attire.
don't know what that board of health code would be at the pizza shop wearing my pajamas in the kitchen. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, Merry Christmas, Al. Merry Christmas. Yeah, where did Elf on a Shelf come from? Because I don't
I have
remember it
no
being when
idea.
I was a kid. We didn't have Elf on a Shelf.
No, we
Has
had
this
Belt on
always
the
been
Shelf.
around? It's just more popularized because of social media. I never heard of Elf on a Shelf till like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, I just learned when my daughter was probably like 2 or 3 years old, and it's just become a tradition ever since. I have no idea where this thing came from, but it's cute. I like it. I mean, it makes her happy at the end of the day. So if it makes her happy, then I'm good. I'm golden.
No, I love it. All right. So prediction time. Final 5 minutes of the show. Eagles, Giants. This do not. I'm going to just say this. Okay. I'm going to say this. This will not be the game that Boston Scott scores. Boston
Mm.
Scott is going to break his streak of dominating against the Giants. I don't know why. Because I'm going to be in Florida and I can't actually place bets in Florida. So I won't be placing a Boston Scott touchdown. But I do think the Eagles get off their snide. I do think the Eagles get the win, Brian. I'm going to go 28-10 is the way. It's going to be a very, very dominating, slow performance, not like 30 plus points or anything like that. I think 28-10. We see the complete game. We're back on Tuesday being uber positive about this team. That's how I see it. And I see the offense having a good game, but really the defense is what's going to be what shines that has the defense is going to be why we're talking on Tuesday and Wednesday so positively about this Eagles team.
I don't disagree with that. I do think Boston Scott does score. I think he's gonna score on a brotherly shove kind of play,
Okay.
in the end zone, just because Nick Sirianni is that kind of guy.
Right.
Um, But I do agree with the sentiment that, that the Eagles are gonna have a more consistent game. They're gonna find their stride. I think they win 24-17, and the only reason I'm saying 17 is because I feel like a garbage time touchdown by the Giants would bring them a little closer, but they'll be out of reach at the end of the game. Um, but this is the get right game, right? This is the game that all Philadelphia is going to want to see. It's a Christmas game. It'll be a Christmas gift to Eagles fans. And I think it's again, Jalen Hurts saying that we're not committed enough. If I'm the head coach, if I'm the GM, if I'm the owner, I'm having a big old emergency meeting with everybody. Like, hey, what the hell is going on? And why does our franchise quarterback feel like we're not committed? Have Jalen have the floor. Everybody correct their issues. And let's move forward. Let's get this win.
Chuck, you always got some weird random scores. Like you had like a 29-18 score last week, I think it was. Like 30-12 is just one of those numbers. Like I don't even know how the
Four
Eagles will
field
get
goals.
30 points. You know what I mean? So Chuck's always got these random numbers when he predicts and all. But I love it. I do think we see that. I know Matty B being ultra negative. We're just ignoring Matty B's comments. Well, we all have that Eagles don't score over 26. I'm gonna go. There's another 26-13. That's a random score as well, right there.
Can you get
But
to
at least we're
26?
all on the same page. What's wrong?
Can you get to 26 in football?
Well, you can
I've
get to
never
anything.
seen a score of 26.
So I guess if you get to 24, you can get a safety to get it to 26. So however you get to 24, then a safety would get you to 26. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to be. 27-7 Eagles, by the way, from K1. Again, I can totally see that. This is the game the defense is going to make the statement, Brian. And I'm going to say, I can't even tell you the last time we had a key turnover in a key situation. You're going
Yeah.
to see the Eagles defense, whether it's Kellen Ringo, you're going to see one of the young kids that's got to step up at linebacker, safety, cornerback, wherever. You're going to see a big turnover in a big moment early in the game, not late in the game, early in the game that sets the tone, whether it's Ringo, whether it's any, who knows who it'll be, but you're going to see that big play from the defense this week.
I agree. I feel like, with Matt Patricia, I feel like hopefully we see some a little bit more blitz. But I think the script writers have us in their favor this week. So
I'm so over making scriptwriter jokes. It's so beyond the scriptwriter jokes, man. It's
as long as
always
there's
every
bad
week we got to
officiating,
talk about the
there's script
script
writers.
writers. Did the script writers have a rally down at the NovaCare complex? Was that part of the script too?
I'm not commenting on that. You're not gonna bait me.
I'm trying to bait you so
You're
bad.
not gonna listen. I'm gonna say this. I respect the idea.
Yeah.
I get the idea, right? It's a good idea, right? I don't agree with the advertising of the idea. I don't agree with now, like, hey, if the Eagles win, hey, it's because of us. Like, that's the only thing I don't agree with. But I respect them doing that. I respect them putting themselves out there. I feel like
I
not a
respect
lot of
them
people
as a
would do that.
group of guys. I know Jake a little bit, personally. He's a good dude. And if for anybody that doesn't know, Talking 215, they're a podcast group. They went down to the NovaCare. They tried to do a Trey Turner type situation for the Eagles yesterday. They asked me to do Trending in the AM live down there at the NovaCare complex with them yesterday. And I said no, because just like I was against the Trey Turner standing ovation, I'm not going to cheer a team that's giving me negative feelings right now. Like, I'm not.
I feel like
That's
if
just
you're
against
cheering
my
them,
personal thing.
you're kind of like coddling them. And
Yeah.
this team doesn't need to be coddled right now. But also, it's kind of like if you're doing it, do it for the purpose. Don't do it for the advertising portion. At least that's just me. I still don't know who the
I
trash can
guarantee
guy
I'm getting
is.
a DM from Jake right now.
Listen, and I don't mean any disrespect behind
Neither
it at
do
all.
I.
It was a good idea. It was cool. I get it. I just, I feel like the purpose behind it got lost because now it's a little bit more. The camera's being moved, different angle. That's the best way I can say it.
Well, I want to take this moment to say Merry Christmas. I do say I want to regularize and normalize people actually saying Merry Christmas again. Happy holidays to everybody that doesn't celebrate Christmas, but I feel it's okay to say Merry Christmas. I tell my employees at my pizza shop, if you want to say Merry Christmas to somebody, be my guest. Don't worry about it because it's okay. We celebrate Christmas, so I'm going to say Merry Christmas. I hope everybody has a great Merry Christmas. I hope the Eagles win. I want to say thank you to Brian Cameron. Are you guys going to be doing flipping the birds on Monday night after the game or Tuesday post game? I'm
Most
assuming you're
likely
not doing a post
game.
game on Christmas night.
Yeah, most likely on the next day, Tuesday. If I record on Christmas Day, I might lose my life. So let's just focus on Tuesday night flipping the birds. And yeah, we appreciate all you guys and Merry Christmas to you, Phil, and definitely enjoy your vacation, man. It's well deserved. And yeah, I mean, from me, go birds and take care, everybody.
Yeah, have a great Christmas, guys. We'll see you on when I'll be back Wednesday, the 27th. That'll be the next Trending in the AM, guys. Have a great Christmas. We'll talk to you guys later and go birds.